would like to unpack first what is resilience as we look at it from a UNESCO perspective. We feel that resilience will require 5 areas of interventions. The first one is the capabilities of the system to build information system and data that can help build the system resilience. The second, this requires governance, and that means involvement not only of the education leaders or education constituencies, but also other parts of the society, civil society, communities, private sector, and other stakeholders that have to be involved in the governance. The third is that this will require teachers and teaching staff capabilities to cope with the challenges and to build the resilience of the system. And the resilience of the teachers is part of the resilience of the overall system. The fourth is more related to how the system can cater for the most disadvantaged and the most marginalized. A resilient system that is not equitable, that is not inclusive, is not a resilient system. If it is resilient for the happy few, that's not a resilient system. So how to ensure the equity and inclusion is important. And the last is related to how system can migrate to different modalities of organization. And one of them is, of course, how we can organize remote learning, be it fully digital or hybrid learning modalities. And for that, obviously, to be successful, this will require the capabilities of the teachers, and I mentioned that, but also of the learners and their capability to engage with technologies and different type of technologies. The importance of digital skills is critical in this case, but it's also how they are included in a dynamic way in the curricula and how they are developed as part of the curricula and as part of extracurricular activities, how they are assessed, how they are valorized and recognized in different levels of the education system. And unfortunately, many countries speak about digital skills. There are many initiatives, but they are not mainstreamed in the curricula. And this is a very critical dimension, is how these are mainstreamed in the curricula at different levels of the lifelong learning dimension. It starts early, how to cope with the technology at early years of learning. And of course, it continues to adult learning. And now we are speaking also about senior learners for life, because our citizens who have retired, they also need to develop those digital skills. I think that looking at the international experience, we see that there are 3 areas that are critical in this case. One is the country able to define a national digital skills framework? Of course, it can be inspired by the international developments, and UNESCO, for example, has developed a digital literacy and skills framework. But at the country level, there should be an agreement about what are the digital skills that we would like every citizens to acquire, and that agreement should happen at the national level, and it can be then layered down at the different levels and different education setting. So a national framework on digital literacy or digital skills is one important dimension. The second is a national strategy for development of the digital skills. And again, here it requires a combination of actors, not only ministries of education. Ministry of Education, for example, might focus on K-12 programs and education, but other ministries like Ministry of Labor or Ministry of Employment may focus on digital skills for work. Ministry of Social Affairs may focus on aspects related to citizens that are out of the labor market, for example, and civil society can be involved as well in a quite important manner. So how the national strategy is crafted is important that it is involving different stakeholders, and that the most marginalized and equity dimension is present in the different aspect of this strategy. And the third aspect is how to fund this strategy. And we see, unfortunately, looking at the international experience, that there is a gap between the strategy and its implementation. And part of it is, of course, the capability of the system to deliver and having the stakeholders prepared and resilient to that, but also the resources that have to be allocated. First of all, when we take the ecosystem dimension, we are thinking about the interaction among different actors and a system approach. And I think this is critical in the case of the digital skills, because this will require the involvement of different actors from the public sector, from civil society, from editors to private sector, to telecom companies, to other actors that have to be involved in the ecosystem. The second is that we are in a world that is globalized. And obviously, there is a lot of, I would say, push factor from big companies, from multinationals, from the global edtech. But national ecosystem has to be a system that can benefit from the international dynamic, wealth, research, analysis, but has to develop locally adapted resources, technologies, solutions that fit for the national identity, national culture, national needs, and languages as well. So that local ecosystem is critical so that the country and the national actors do not become what I call consumers of the global supermarket of the technology, but rather stakeholders that can produce appropriate tools and resources for their own needs. And it is more demand-driven approach, because the ecosystem will take care of the national problems. And while we have common problems across the globe, but we still have some specificities and context problems that countries have to solve. So the ecosystem is critical on that. And the third is that looking at the ecosystem, we are thinking about different elements of it. And for now, there are gaps. Let me give an example on education resources. Of course, education system and teachers and the teaching staff are critical, but you need other actors. For example, editors, for example, media, for example, publishers, and for example, also funding and tech funds that come from other sources than the national government. By having this ecosystem perspective, you are bringing in the key stakeholders around the table and make them work together toward one goal. From our perspective, there is a need for international solidarity and cooperation in the different areas related to education. UNESCO has been advancing the collaboration. We have organized the global education meetings, ministers meeting, webinars. But one driving aspect that we have been looking at is how we can reinforce the international cooperation and solidarity and peer learning. And I hope that in the discussion, also this external dimension of the collaboration and the technology development is taken into consideration. Uruguay has been advancing and an advanced country in this area. Uruguay can benefit from the international experience, but also can share its own experience with other countries. And we need that honest, objective assessment of the experience, drawing lessons and sharing those lessons, because that's how we can learn together. And this is how we can thrive all together as an international community, as a humankind that cater for each other and can collaborate and advance together.